Oh, human beings are so very interesting. I'll tell you where my paranoia kicks in. I'm sitting here staring at something from the American Medical Association. The headline is, critics charge HIPAA laws may be too lenient to protect patient privacy. All this business about records being inappropriately examined by personnel at UCLA. I don't know how many of you around the country have heard this issue, but apparently locally here it's a big deal. Somebody got into celebrities' records that shouldn't have been there. HIPAA laws are not too lenient. I got news for you. We can barely practice medicine because of these goddamn HIPAA laws. And yet, here's why I'm angry. Organizations like Scientology can keep the same kinds of records about you as detailed and as explicit as you want. Nothing to protect those records. Those can be released anytime they damn well please. Really, ladies and gentlemen, really, we got to make the good guys and the bad. The doctors have to be. I don't know. It drives me crazy. Joining me now is Gareth Kales. He's with a group called Anonymous. And I'm right, am I not, Gareth, that the First Amendment is one of your big clarion calls? Yes.
One of the biggest.
Okay, and so the problem that Scientology got into with you is that they messed with YouTube, as you said.
Yeah, they tried to pull a video off of it that had every right to be up there, and at that point it became newsworthy. It was posted on Gawker as well. Gawker refused to take it down because it was fair use at that point, and that's when we started really looking into Scientology, and we found out all their other crimes.
What is your plan with them? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish?
Oh, we've got two main goals in mind. The first of which is to raise awareness about the evils of the Church of Scientology. And
wait a minute. I'm going to take issue with that. You're assuming that you're putting a strong word to that.
Absolutely.
I mean, maybe excesses? Would that be a more reason? I really think everyone's got to be very reasonable with these things, or everybody comes as bad as everybody else. How about excesses?
I don't think it's excessive.
You know what's I got to tell you what's interesting to me, Gary. Let me tell you a little personal story. That I think you're certainly aware of Tory, who's been in the church for many, many years and is now out. Tory, that they have this Narconon organization which treats addiction through various nefarious means. Yeah. I think one of the southwestern states has allowed them to be a main referral source for their drug and alcohol courts. And at first I read that and I was like, oh my God, how dangerous. And I thought, oh, well, maybe they'll come on to something. There's nobody restricting the kinds of things they can do. They can do anything. Maybe they'll figure something out. What do they do in those organizations like Narconon?
Narconon is a thing to get kids off of drugs, but it's not very successful. They have a huge repeat rate, and it's also a thing to basically get people into Scientology. It's one of they have many front groups that don't say they're Scientology, but they are, and they're one of them. We just got them kicked out of the entire school system in California, which they had snuck into. And that is religion. They're under the umbrella of Scientology.
Gareth, you were going to say
against church and state.
Yeah,
Gareth, you were going to say something. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. The thing about Narconon, and like Tory said with all the front groups, is that they've been a lot of places where they vulture on people. So, for example, just after September 11th, when everybody went out to New York City to volunteer, they sent their volunteer ministers who had no certifications, they were untrained. And actually, if you ask around the fire departments and everything else, they've come out saying that they actually got in the way. And their only purpose there was to feed on people that were in a very rough point of their life and say, well, we can help. And then they suck them in and they get their money.
That's
okay. Can I say two things about that, what he just said?
Go ahead.
Number one, the people that go out there, I was one of them. I didn't go there for 9/11, but I was a volunteer. You know, I went out for different things. And you are honestly thinking that was part of my waking up process because I thought we were going out to help the people. But every time I'd come back, all the executives would say is, did we get press? That was it. Did they mention L. Ron Hubbard? That was it. That's all they cared about. And it was sort of like, to me, my analogy is it's sort of like this Truman Show, right?
Yeah.
Where you're insulated in. But the thing with 9/11, they're totally against psychiatry, right?
Yeah.
But on 9/11, underneath President Bush, I was on the Internet at the time with the critics, and up comes for mental health, call 1-800-for-truth. And I said, that's the Dianetic hotline. And we called Fox News. They took it right off. But it was like, unbelievable.
Well, that's very interesting. Now, Gareth, I interrupted you. You were going to tell me what I corrected you in the word evil and said excesses. What are the things you're going after?
The second goal that we have is, like I said before, the First Amendment is a big deal to us. And there's actually two parts to the First Amendment. There's the speech, and then there's also the part about establishment of a favored religion. One of the things that people don't know about Scientology is that their tax-exempt agreement is actually more favorable than for other religions. Specifically, they have a tax deduction on religious education. So if your child is getting educated, audited, and everything, that is actually tax deductible. Where, for example, if you send your child to a private religious school, Jewish, Christian school, something like that, you can't deduct that. So there's actually a trial going on right now, SLAR versus the IRS, where a Jewish couple is trying to get the money back that they spent on their child's religious education. But the IRS is saying that unless you have Scientology receipts, you can't have that.
Wow.
And the judge that actually last heard it went so far as to say this violates the Establishment Clause. So they're violating the First Amendment on every front. They've got a favored religious status, which is a whole other story we can get into how they got that. And then they're also trying to suppress free speech.
And those are the two things you're going after.
Yeah, we want to get their tax-exempt status either reviewed, revoked, or made equal. Personally, I feel that the way they got it in the first place was evil in itself, which I can go into if you'd like.
No.
Okay.
I've had enough. But
That's all
are
right.
you having any kind of a rational dialogue with anyone within the organization or representing the organization?
They won't talk to us, and the reason they won't talk to us is that they declared us cyber terrorists.
I see. And Tory, you're laughing at that.
Well, they have to. I told you, anybody speaking out against Scientology, and I've talked to their PR who said, oh, we don't break up families. We help families get back together. Now, I was in Scientology. I know that's true. But I also know they break up families, mine included. The niece of David Miscavige, head of Scientology, after that interview, spoke out saying, my uncle, David Miscavige, is disconnected from me. And she's done many interviews now since.
Well, I wish somebody, the great thing to do would be they should publish data. Of course, I guess you couldn't believe it because it wouldn't be dispassionate. But Tory and Garrett, hold on for a second. I want to talk to you some more. Tory, I want to know how you got into the church. Can you talk to me about that?
I read a book. I read Dianetics.
All right, hold on. We've got to take a quick break. It's Dr. Drew Live. We'll take your calls. We'll hear more from Tory and Garrett after this. It is Dr. Drew Live. We're going to take your calls. We are talking to Tory Christman. She's a former member of the Church of Scientology. She left in 2000. We have Gareth Kales, who's with an organization called Anonymous, who was campaigning on behalf of the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights. And, Tory, you were saying two questions there for you. You were saying that you got in as a result of reading Dianetics, and I have another follow-on question maybe you want to answer first. Do you think you've had an effect on the church?
You mean now or when I was in?
No, well, both. And is the internet, having an effect here? Is it too much for them to control that kind of information?
That's a very good question. First of all, a big reason why I left was the First Amendment also, because I was opening up those phony accounts not knowing it. When I realized they were stopping free speech, that was it for me. I was like, I didn't get into Scientology to stop free speech. And that's why the internet is their nemesis. There's no way they can stop it. And they keep trying to stop it. It's not going to happen. If they would just finally say, okay, we believe in Xenu, we believe in space aliens, leave us alone. You know what? And stop doing all the nasty fair game and breaking up families and all their abuses. If they stop the negative stuff, I think they'd be really popular. I do.
Interesting. I mean, you got in.
They cut down the prices. It's way too expensive now and stuff like that. All the manipulative stuff they'd have to stop, which is most of Scientology. So it's tricky. But the original stuff that he started with was pretty cool, and we had a lot of fun with it in the beginning. It was.
Is the negative turn the result of particular personalities or individuals?
Yeah, I mean Hubbard died, and I mean he himself had gone psycho and fallen into his own traps. He built these traps for people, and then he fell into them himself.
Like what?
Like Xenu. He was fighting the whole story of Xenu. He had started to believe and was fighting. I know people who were with him. And he believed he was covered in dead space aliens, and he was trying to get rid of them and couldn't.
But who are there particular personalities that have gotten more aggressive and negative within the organization?
I mean, Tom Cruise isn't exactly a cheery guy anymore. He's totally, look at his career. He was a great, successful actor, and now he's this fanatical Scientologist out pretending he's a doctor, telling people what medications they should take or not.
Yeah, that's problematic always.
Yeah.
Gareth, do they run any difficulty of getting into trouble in that front legally?
Is our group getting into any trouble?
No, the Scientology in terms of their what Tory is alleging is that they're sort of practicing medicine on some level.
Well, yeah, there have been
I'm
cases.
not alleging. I have epilepsy. They made me get off my medicine. So
Right.
let's not say I'm alleging. I have years of experience of fighting them with my own medication.